Now we will see what is a Lambda function and how to create a simple Lambda function. So a Lambda function is something that is provided by AWS where you can run your piece of code without having to think about any infrastructure. So you can just write your business logic and Lambda service will take care of executing that code based on certain events. So we will start with a simple function. Let's see how we can create a simple function and run it. So if you are in some other page, you can just search for Lambda, and that should take you to the Lambda homepage. And this is what it looks like. And you can just click on create a function. It will take you to this page. So there are different ways to create a function. Either we can create it from scratch or we can use a blueprint or container image. For simple learning purpose, we'll just create it from scratch and give some basic details like demo lambda 1 and runtime. We can choose whatever runtime we want. In my case, I'm just choosing Python. And here, when it comes to permissions, the Lambda needs some permissions. So if it wants to interact with other AWS services, it needs some permissions. So by default, AWS already creates an execution role with basic permissions that Lambda needs. So if you don't want any special permissions, you can just leave it as it is. So you can just set it like a default execution role. If you want some specialized roles, you can choose others. But for our uh, scenario, we can just go with a basic Lambda permission. And there are certain advanced settings that we can use. For this, we won't go into it, but we'll just go ahead and create a function. So what AWS does, it goes ahead with these options we selected and tries to create a function for us. Yeah, now the function is created. So you can see that whatever function we created is here. And this is the boilerplate simple code. So this is what Lambda, basic Lambda code looks like. So it has two parameters like event, which is kind of the trigger for Lambda. So we can we can have different events trigger our Lambda function. So this event parameter gives details about that trigger, and context is the context where the lambda runs. So in this case, you can see that it is just returning a simple success code, 200 status code, and is returning hello from lambda. So we can go ahead and even run this. So in order to test it, so we need to configure a test event. So you can just give a any uh, name, test event one, and if you want to give some specific input, you can give it here. In our case, it doesn't matter. So just go ahead and save it. Now you can see the test event which we created. So now we can test it. And once I click on test, what happens is AWS runs the Lambda function with the event and context parameters, and it returns the response. So whatever response that is mentioned in the Lambda function, the status code is 100 and hello from Lambda, we are getting it. So this is how a simple Lambda execution runs like, and these are the logs associated with the run. So it prints the request ID, when it started, when it ended, and what is the duration, etc. So this is how you run a simple Lambda function. You can add any logic we want in this Lambda handler, uh, and Lambda will take care of executing it and returning the results for us.